Inside of Jira, we have our work types, which we just saw, right? You have your work types of, I could show them right here, of task, subtask, and general request. Those are your kind of typical out-of-box work types that you'll get within Jira Service Management. But what you don't get inside of Jira is these request types. Now, request types are really the thing that customers or end users will see when submitting a request. They don't actually see the work type. The work type is the categorization of the type of work. The request type is the type of request that's coming in. So some good examples of this, if you look at the templates inside of IT, are things like fixing an account, getting IT help, getting Wi-Fi access, requesting a new account. And my kind of word of caution here is the less request types you can add, the better. The more you have, the more complicated it's going to be for your end users to jump into the portal, look at the request types and say, that's my problem, I need to get that submitted. And the more request types you show, the more complexity you add, and the more likely people will bypass the system instead of using the intended solution that you want. And the whole goal is to make the intended thing that we want people to do as simple as possible, right? Make following easier than bypassing. That's the whole goal. So if you can imagine, right, an end user who's maybe not very technical, think of your grandma, right, goes into the portal and sees 3 request types. Says, I have a account problem, I have a computer problem, or I need a new device. If you read those 3 things, you're like, oh, okay, this is my exact problem, super easy. Now imagine your grandma goes into the portal and you're met with 20 request types. And now you have to read through each and every one of those, and all of them are very slightly different, but generally the same. Like, I have an account problem, I need a new account, my software or my password needs to be reset. All these kinds of different request types that you, number one, have to read through and understand to submit the right one. But number two, they all kind of sound the same and blend together. You're going to have a very hard time trying to submit something. And more likely than not, someone jumps on that portal and says, yeah, this is too complicated. I'm going to send a Slack message, or I'm going to give them a phone call, or I'm going to send an email. And that's what we want to avoid here. We want to make sure that we build the processes that are easy to follow and that we craft them in a way that are undeniably simple and frictionless. So how do we actually do that? Well, we do that by implementing very few request types with very simple language with conditional logic forms. So I'll give you a very simple example, and I think Get IT Help does this decently well. So we'll use Get IT Help as the template, and we'll create this, and we'll make sure it's a general request. We'll click Add, make sure it shows up on the portal. And then from here, we have 2 options. We can either pull in different fields that we have available to us directly into this request, or we could add a form. And almost every single time, I'm highly going to recommend adding a form, because even if you don't need one now, you'll probably need one later. So what I'll do is actually remove all of these fields. And what I'm going to do is add a form instead. And for the form, I believe there should be one for Get IT Help. Get IT Help, is there IT support? Nope, that was the change request. That's not the one I needed. Let me try creating from template. IT, there was one that said IT support request. Okay, this should work. This should get the job done. Okay, so now we have no fields in kind of the native request. And this is a little bit confusing because you could kind of have both options at the same time as well in Jira. But what you really want to do is remove every field you can and have just the form attached right here. So we'll save the changes. And now we have a new Get IT Help request type on our portal. So this is what request types actually do. They allow you to surface this information on portals inside of things like Slack, etc., where you could go in and you click on a request type that can actually surface very specific pieces of information the team, the agents need to resolve the request. So they're customer facing essentially, whereas a work type is internal. And really the hierarchy is the work type is at the top. It can have multiple request types roll up into one work type. So Get IT Help, or like request password reset, request access to a new account, could all roll up into one work type, which is pretty common. So here is our request type that we could click on. And now we have some conditional logic in here. And depending on what I select, I could add some conditional logic that says, describe the nature of the request. If it's critical, if it's not critical, if it's low or medium, we could disappear and not show that field at all. Depending on the piece of software we select, we could sometimes also include more follow-up questions on top of that. In this case, this form doesn't have any, but really the goal is we ask as little information as possible with as little amount of fields as possible for our end users to answer and have a very streamlined, simple experience for them to jump in, identify their problem, and submit their problem to the team. Real quick, I've implemented Jira for over 200 companies. By far, the number one reason teams reach out to us is because they built what they thought was a great solution, only to realize that nobody actually ended up using it. And if that sounds familiar, that's exactly what we help you fix. We're currently taking on new projects 4 to 6 weeks out. And if you want help implementing Jira in a way that your team will actually use, hit the first link in the description below.